She believed in loyalty, not the kind that fades when the spotlight hits, not the kind that needs applause, the kind that stays quiet, present, constant. Even when the cameras turned, Chloe Bernard stayed. Even when the press whispered names that weren't hers, she stayed. Even when she sat beside a man who sometimes saw the world more clearly than he saw her, she stayed. Until the night he didn't defend her. Not with a word, not with a glance, not even with silence. That night, Chloe stood for herself, and for the first time in years, she walked away with more than her name. She walked away with her peace. Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever poured your love into someone who didn't protect you, this one is for you. If you've ever stood in a room full of people and felt invisible next to someone who was supposed to see you first, this is your story. And if you've ever been betrayed, not by actions, but by silence, stay with this one until the end. Because Chloe Bernard didn't just walk out of a marriage, she walked into her power. And what she built after the heartbreak changed everything. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Drop a comment if you've ever stood by someone who didn't stand by you. And don't forget to like this video so more people can find stories that speak their truth too. Because this isn't just another story about betrayal. This is about what happens when grace doesn't break, it rebuilds. Now let me take you back. Before the media coverage, before the foundation, before the man who knew how to wait. Back to when Chloe Bernard stood beside the man she thought would always choose her. His name was Jason Rourke. At one point, Chloe would have said he was everything. Her partner, her safe place, her best friend. They met long before he became a household name in tech. Back when he still wore sweatshirts and coded in her apartment on the weekends. Back when their dreams felt like shared blueprints, not separate empires. Chloe wasn't just there for the beginning. She was the reason it started. She reviewed early contracts, helped him navigate investor meetings. She even cleaned up a press nightmare after an early product launch failed. While Jason built software, Chloe built strategy. While he built the company's name, she protected it. But as the headlines grew, so did the space between them. Chloe never asked for the spotlight. She just wanted acknowledgement. A glance across the room, a subtle hand on her lower back, a quick, "I couldn't have done this without you." But the higher Jason climbed, the less he looked down to see who had carried him. Still, Chloe stayed. She believed in love. She believed in loyalty. She believed that when the dust settled, he'd come back to her, the woman who had always been there. And maybe he would have. Maybe he planned to. Until one night at a gala, everything shifted with one kiss. That wasn't hers, and Jason didn't stop it, didn't flinch, didn't look for Chloe in the crowd. That's when the silence between them spoke louder than any words ever could. So she left, without yelling, without headlines, without a single demand. But what she did next, what she built from that pain, was something even the media couldn't spin. Before the tailored suits, before the interviews, before the Rourke tech name was plastered across billboards and tech magazines, there was just Chloe and Jason. They met in a cramped downtown cafe in Atlanta, the kind with sticky tables and lopsided booths. Chloe was finishing law school, studying for her bar exam with tabs and legal briefs spread across the table. Jason was 2 tables away, laptop open, muttering to himself over lines of broken code. He looked like chaos, but he smiled at her like peace. She let him sit across from her. He offered her a donut. She offered him a better contract clause. The rest, as they say, unfolded one decision at a time. Chloe didn't fall in love fast. She was cautious, observant, raised to believe love needed both intention and respect. But Jason? He made promises with his eyes, said thank you without always using words, and when he got excited about a new update, he'd call her first, even before his CO founders. By the time Chloe passed the bar, Jason had officially launched his startup, out of a co-working space with borrowed furniture and one decent Wi-Fi router, and she stood beside him through all of it, drafting early contracts, helping navigate NDAs, reading board minutes in bed. She never asked for credit, never needed applause. Her name wasn't on the founding documents, but her fingerprints were on every win. Even when Jason began to shine publicly, she remained grounded in what they had privately. To most people, Chloe was the beautiful woman next to him at events. To those who knew the truth, she was the anchor, the sounding board, the reason Jason hadn't crashed and burned under pressure. But slowly, subtly, things shifted. It started with rescheduled dinners, then cancelled vacations, then a new executive assistant who didn't know her name, then a media consultant who advised Jason to present as solo during press runs to keep the mystery alive. Chloe didn't say anything. Not at first. She understood the game. Public image, growth phase, venture capital. Still, she noticed the way Jason stopped introducing her at meetings, how he left her name off internal decks, how his team began talking to her like she wasn't part of the plan. One day she asked him lightly, "Am I invisible in your empire?" Jason laughed it off. "You're the core of it, but you don't need a nameplate to prove that." Chloe smiled, but something hollow settled in her chest that night. She had sacrificed opportunities, declined law firm offers, stayed late helping, smooth investor relationships, all while Jason became the face of Rourke Tech. And still, she stayed, because she believed in what they were building. They'd talk about it sometimes, usually late at night after he returned from networking events. He'd crash into bed smelling like scotch and backroom deals, and she'd run her, fingers through his hair as he mumbled about the weight on his shoulders. "You're the only one who gets it," he'd say. "I couldn't do this without you." She'd press a soft kiss to his temple. "I know." And she did. That's why she ignored the whispers, the blogs, the photos of Jason at conferences with a woman always by his side. Her name was Kendall Price, the new PR director. Polished, blonde, always camera ready. Jason said she was a beast at branding. And Chloe, she believed him, until she didn't. "You ever think he's forgetting where he came from?" Shannon asked, stirring her coffee. Chloe arched a brow. "You mean?" "I mean both of you," Shannon replied. "He started as a dude with vision and free code templates. Now he's a headline with custom suits. Don't let love blind you to behavior." Chloe sighed. "I'm not naive, Shan. I know you're not. That's what scares me." They sat in silence for a moment. "I just don't want to believe he'd hurt me," Chloe finally said. "Not after everything." "Girl," Shannon whispered, "men don't always hurt you with actions. Sometimes it's the things they don't do, the silence, the dismissal, the comfort with letting you fade into the background." That hit harder than Chloe expected, but she smiled anyway. Because if she admitted it, really admitted it, she'd have to face it, and she wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Jason came home at 11:47 p.m., loosened tie, drained eyes, new cologne. Chloe was up working on a pro bono legal brief. "Did you eat?" she asked. He grunted, kissed her forehead distractedly, and muttered something about a photo shoot with the new exec team. She waited for him to mention her, ask how her case went, even say he missed her. He didn't. He scrolled through Slack, sent one last email, then mumbled, "Don't wait up." Chloe closed her laptop and quietly cried in the bathroom, not because she was weak, but because love shouldn't feel like being erased. The morning after Jason came home, without so much as a "How was your day?" Chloe stood at the kitchen sink staring out the window. The coffee pot had just finished brewing, and the sunlight was cutting through the blinds, slashing golden lines across the marble counters. Jason walked past her, on his phone, already in a fresh shirt, already a different world away. She didn't expect a good morning. She didn't even expect a thank you for the neatly pressed clothes she'd laid out the night before. What she did expect, what she hoped for, was a sign, a look, a pause, something to show he still remembered what they used to be. But it never came. He kissed the top of her head absently like a man greeting his assistant, not his wife, and walked out the door mid-call. She hadn't even said a word yet. Chloe sat down with her cup of coffee, untouched. The silence in the apartment buzzed louder than any conversation they'd had all week. Weeks later, Jason returned home at 1 a.m. from an investor retreat in Lake Tahoe. Chloe had waited up, not because she wanted to argue, but because she wanted to reconnect. But the moment he walked in, she saw it. The same suit, the same half-drunk smile, and a lipstick stain on his collar. Not red, not pink. Coral. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply walked into the bedroom and closed the door behind her. The next morning, over dry toast and silence, Jason finally said, "What's the matter?" Chloe looked at him and said calmly, "You used to see me." Jason blinked. "What?" "You used to notice me in a room," she continued. "Now, you don't even notice when I'm hurting. You're making this more than it is," he said, brushing crumbs off his plate. "This is what growth looks like, Chloe. I'm building something massive. It takes focus, sacrifice." "I made sacrifices too," she said. "I gave up partnerships. I stayed quiet when they gave credit for my legal cleanup to your COO. I took a step back for the image." Jason sighed. "You're not the face of the company, Chloe." "I never wanted to be," she said. "I just wanted to be seen by the man I married." When the 10-year anniversary gala approached, Jason assumed Chloe would handle the RSVPs, her usual task. She did. He assumed she'd pick out his tux and schedule his haircut. She did. He assumed she'd be on his arm, like always. She was, because Chloe believed in loyalty, even when love felt more like habit than intimacy, even when she felt more like his shadow than his partner. She wore a black off-shoulder gown that night, her hair pulled into a sleek, low bun. She looked stunning, elegant, poised, radiant. Jason didn't notice, but Shannon did. "Girl," she whispered as they sat in the front row, "if he doesn't fix his face and tell you you're fine tonight, I will—" Chloe smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The room filled with tech moguls, venture capitalists, media faces, and people who had no idea how much of Jason's empire had been held together by the quiet strength of the woman beside him. And then, Kendall Price stepped up to the podium. Kendall wore red, bold, brilliant red. She sauntered up like she owned the room. Her speech started normal, brand messaging, company milestones, projections. Then it turned personal. "Tonight wouldn't be possible without the man who believed in me," she said, locking eyes with Jason, "who pushed me to be my best and trusted me with everything." "Jason, thank you." Then she walked across the stage, leaned in, and kissed his cheek. The cameras flashed like thunder. Chloe's body went still. Jason smiled, and nodded politely. But he never looked at Chloe. Not once. He didn't shake his head, didn't clarify, didn't step away. He let the world assume. And that, more than anything, was the betrayal. Chloe's breath stayed calm, but her heart had already stopped listening. Shannon reached for her hand. "You good?" Chloe nodded. She didn't cry, didn't make a scene, didn't storm out. She stood up gracefully, smoothed her gown, and walked out with her head held high. The door didn't slam, but her absence did. Back at the penthouse, Chloe said nothing. Jason didn't ask. He poured himself a drink, kicked off his shoes, and started scrolling CNBC like nothing happened. She sat on the couch, watching him, watching the man she'd once believed would always protect her, the man she'd defended in boardrooms, supported through grief, advised during scandals. He turned to her once and said, "Kendall's speech was good, right?" Chloe blinked, and that's when she knew he hadn't even noticed what he'd done. The betrayal wasn't the kiss. It was the silence. It was the comfort he had in letting the world see her as optional. It took Chloe less than 24 hours to start packing. Not everything. Just her essentials. Just the pieces of herself she hadn't given to his empire. Noah Cruz, her assistant, showed up at 8:30 a.m. with her usual oat milk latte. He froze when he saw the boxes. "Where are we going?" he asked. No hesitation. Chloe blinked at him, almost laughing. You think I'm staying here with him?" he said. "You're the whole reason I even took this job. You gave me a shot when no one else would. Wherever you land, I'm in." She pulled him into a hug. Jason walked in, tie undone, phone in hand. He looked at the boxes, then at her. "You're being dramatic," he said. Chloe didn't flinch. "You let another woman kiss you in front of the world. You let people believe she was the woman behind your success, and you didn't say a word." "She's a PR director," Jason said. "It was for optics, and I was your wife," Chloe replied. "But I guess optics mean more than loyalty." Jason didn't fight, didn't say stay, didn't ask what she needed. He just stood there, quietly watching as she picked up her final box and walked out the door. Chloe didn't slam it, but it closed behind her with the kind of finality that left no doubt. She wasn't coming back. 2 days after she walked out, Chloe stood at a corner table in her sister's spare guest room, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and unanswered text messages. Atlanta's summer heat pressed through the windows, heavy and inescapable. It was quiet, too quiet. She hadn't spoken to Jason since the morning she left, not because she was trying to punish him, but because she finally understood something. Some silences protect you. Others erase you. She had spent the last few years swimming upstream in his world, trying not to disturb the flow, trying not to be too much, too emotional, too visible, too proud. But what had that silence gotten her? A front-row seat to her own erasure. Chloe opened her laptop and checked her inbox. Nothing from Jason. No apology. No explanation. Just a forwarded press invite to the 10-year anniversary gala for Rourke Tech, still addressed to Mrs. Chloe Rourke. She stared at the subject line. 10 years of impact, a celebration of power, progress and possibility. What a joke. Still, she planned to go, not because she wanted to be seen, but because she refused to be erased. Chloe chose her outfit carefully. Not revenge red, that was too predictable. Not soft pastels, too forgiving. She chose black, a fitted floor-length gown with subtle shimmer under lighting, long sleeves that wrapped her figure with elegance, not invitation. Her hair was styled in a sleek low bun, with one soft curl resting near her temple. Her makeup? Minimal. Her presence? Maximal. As she stepped into the rideshare, Shannon texted, "You sure you want to do this?" Chloe replied, "I'm not going to make a scene. I'm going to make a decision." The venue was packed. Uplighting washed the walls in cool blue. Waiters carried trays of champagne. Media cameras swept across the room. Jason stood near the main stage, dressed in black tie, talking to 2 investors from Silicon Valley. He didn't even glance her way. Chloe walked in like she belonged, because she did, and as she crossed the room, several people turned. Some whispered, a few smiled, but no one said what they were really thinking. Where had she been? And who was the woman in red standing next to Jason? Kendall Price, PR director. Whispers had followed her for months. Nothing confirmed, nothing denied. She stood too close to Jason, touched his elbow too casually, leaned in when he laughed, and Jason let her. Like he didn't notice, like he didn't care. Or maybe, like he did. When the lights dimmed and the stage lit up, Chloe found her seat beside Shannon in the front row. She kept her expression neutral, shoulders back, legs crossed. Every inch of her radiated calm control. Shannon leaned over and whispered, "Girl, you look like Karma with curls." Chloe gave a slight smile, but inside, her stomach twisted. The MC called out names, introduced board members, talked about the early days of Rourke Tech, how Jason had risked everything. Chloe's name was never mentioned, even though she had written some of those early contracts, even though it was her legal draft that had saved them from a lawsuit in year 3. Jason sat in the very important person section with Kendall on his left. His ring finger was bare. Chloe noticed, but she said nothing. Halfway through the night, Kendall's name was announced. She walked onto the stage confidently, holding a wireless mic in one hand and notes in the other. Her red dress shimmered under the spotlight. 10 years ago, this company began as a dream in a shared workspace, she said. And like most dreams, it needed vision, execution, and trust. She smiled directly at Jason. "I want to thank the man who trusted me with his vision, believed in my voice, and gave me the freedom to shape the company's public identity. Chloe's throat went dry. Jason, thank you for everything. And then Kendall walked across the stage, leaned in, and kissed Jason's cheek. The cameras exploded. A live feed streamed to tech sites. Investors clapped politely. But in that one moment, the room became a cathedral of silent questions. And Jason? He didn't correct her, didn't say anything, didn't even glance at Chloe. He just smiled. She didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't cry. But something inside her fractured. It wasn't the kiss that hurt. It was the silence that followed. Jason had let the world rewrite the story, without even attempting to fix the page. Shannon reached over, gripped her hand. You good? Chloe nodded. Then she stood up, slowly. Every step she took out of that ballroom echoed louder in her mind than Kendall's entire speech. She didn't run. She didn't look back. She didn't wait for Jason to notice. Because if he couldn't protect her in public, she wouldn't let him access her in private. The door to the gala didn't slam, but the way Chloe walked out, the grace, the quiet, the finality, was louder than any outburst. Outside, she inhaled Atlanta's humid night air, like it was the first time she'd breathed in months. The valet asked if she needed a ride. She shook her head. She needed a walk, to think, to feel the ground again. She walked 2 blocks in silence before her phone buzzed. It wasn't Jason. It was Shannon. You okay? Chloe typed back. I'm better than I expected. Then she turned her phone off. Her heels were off. Her face was clean. But Chloe still stood in front of the mirror, not because she was admiring herself, but because she was asking herself something she hadn't in a long time. Who are you without him? The woman staring back at her looked tired, but not broken. She thought of all the times she sat in boardrooms quietly taking notes while Jason took credit. All the nights she fell asleep alone while he networked. All the times she smiled for photos she didn't want to be in, just to make him look whole. Chloe reached for her laptop and opened a blank document. At the top she typed 5 words. The Bernard Foundation. Charter. She didn't cry, didn't hesitate. Because if Jason could build an empire with her silent support, she could build one with her own voice. Shannon came over with smoothies and a brow pencil. Girl, you ready to talk? She said, kicking off her shoes. Chloe didn't answer. She turned her laptop toward her friend. Shannon read silently. You're starting your own non-profit? Chloe nodded. Legal aid. Women navigating divorce, custody, financial threats. All the stuff people think is too messy to speak on. Shannon sat down beside her. Do you want PR help? Chloe looked at her. Shannon raised both hands, strictly professional. I won't make you pose in front of billboards with your arms crossed. Chloe smirked. Only if we use my side profile. They both laughed. It felt good to laugh again. The press began dissecting the gala within hours. Headlines swirled. Who was the mystery woman in red? An PR director kisses CEO on stage. Where's the wife? Jason Rourke's empire built on more than code. Jason didn't release a statement. Kendall didn't either. But the silence spoke volumes. A few of Jason's board members emailed him concerns about the optics. His chief investor flagged the moment as a distraction. Even his legal team asked if Chloe was planning anything publicly damaging. Jason replied with the same line he gave Chloe once. It meant nothing. But this time, it felt like even he didn't believe it. In 2 weeks, the Bernard Foundation was officially registered. By week 3, Chloe had signed the lease on a small office in downtown Atlanta. No flashy launches, no hashtags, just action. Noah worked beside her every day, coordinating intake schedules, building systems, ordering desks. He didn't ask about Jason. He didn't have to. They both knew. Chloe wasn't running. She was rebuilding. Shannon handled the first press release. Short, classy, impactful. After years supporting tech executives behind the scenes, Chloe Bernard returns to her legal roots. this time on her own terms. It made the rounds quietly, and Jason saw it. He didn't comment, didn't call, didn't stop her. That silence. This time, it was permission. Chloe sat alone in her new office, with only a desk lamp lit. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that used to feel heavy. Now, it felt sacred. She stared at the wall, where a framed print hung with 3 words, "You matter now." It wasn't a slogan. It was her reminder. Her phone buzzed. A new email. Subject, "Admiring the work you're doing." Sender, Jaden Wells, Esquire. She clicked it open. "Miss Bernard, I've been following your foundation's progress. What you're doing is important, rare. If you ever need a second chair on a complicated custody case, or just want to brainstorm strategy over coffee, my door's open. All the best, J. Wells." She smiled. No pressure. No agenda. Just presence. She didn't reply right away. But for the first time in months, she thought, maybe something real could come next. Have you ever stood quietly beside someone who wouldn't even speak up for you when it mattered? You gave everything. Time, loyalty, belief. And all you needed was for them to say, "She matters." But when the world was watching, they chose silence. And that silence said everything. If you've ever been dismissed, overlooked, or forgotten, drop A in the comments. Then tell us, what would you have done if you were Chloe? We read every word. Like this video so others can find it. Tap subscribe. Because Chloe's story? It's only getting started. 2 weeks after the gala, Chloe sat across from her first client at the Bernard Foundation. A young mother, nervous fingers, a messy custody situation. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Her ex had all the money, all the lawyers, all the media training. "I don't know where to start," the woman whispered. Chloe leaned forward and said calmly, "You just did." She didn't rush. She didn't interrupt. She listened, because she knew what it felt like to have everything taken from you while the world acted like it was your fault for being silent. That meeting ran 2 hours. When it ended, Chloe didn't feel drained. She felt right, like for the first time in a long time, her skills weren't being used to build someone else's empire. They were being used to protect someone's peace. Jason sat at the head of a conference table with 6 department heads and a cold cup of untouched espresso. He hadn't been sleeping well. Since the gala, things hadn't felt the same. Kendall had flown to San Francisco for a consulting opportunity and hadn't returned. The board had questions. Shareholders were twitchy. And his executive team, people who used to laugh at his jokes, were now watching him too closely. "Jason, the ad metrics are down," his CMO said. "The engagement shifted the week after the gala. We need to counter it." Jason rubbed his temples. "Run a rebranding sweep. New campaign. Something with impact." One of his VPs asked, "Do you want to address the press about Chloe?" Jason's voice sharpened. "There's nothing to address." But even he didn't believe it anymore. Because for all his bravado, he could feel it. The room didn't orbit him like it used to. Chloe didn't have luxury marble countertops or a private driver anymore. She had chipped mugs, second-hand office chairs, and an inbox full of women asking for help. And she'd never felt richer. Noah brought her Thai takeout as they wrapped up intake forms for the week. "You hear from him?" he asked casually. "No." "Good," Noah said. "He doesn't get to access this version of you." Chloe raised a brow. "This version? The one that doesn't shrink for anybody, the one that knows her power." She smiled. It wasn't performative. It was honest. Because Chloe hadn't just left Jason's penthouse. She had left the version of herself that needed to be chosen. Now, she was choosing herself. It came on a Tuesday. A package delivered to her office. Inside, a pair of earrings, diamond studs, the same pair she had once admired in a boutique window but never bought. No note. No explanation. No apology. Just jewels. Noah opened the box first. He really thinks silence wrapped in sparkle fixes betrayal. Chloe didn't answer. She took the box, walked to the front desk, and handed it to a teen intern named Brielle. "Sell these. Use the money to restock our law library." Brielle blinked. "Are you serious?" Chloe nodded. "Jason gave me plenty of things, but I'm not for sale." That same week, Chloe got a call from her building's front desk. "Someone here to see you. Says it's personal." She assumed it was a potential client, or Shannon, or a vendor. It was Jason, standing in the lobby in a charcoal grey suit, looking polished but slightly off, like his charm didn't land quite the same anymore. Chloe walked down slowly. He looked up. "Hi." She folded her arms. "You could have emailed. I needed to see you." She didn't say anything. Jason cleared his throat. "I sent something." "I'm not interested in gifts," she cut in. "Say what you came to say." Jason hesitated. "I miss you." Chloe's voice was calm. "Do you miss me, or the silence I gave you access to?" He blinked. "That's not fair." "No," she said. "What wasn't fair was being the woman who built your foundation while being erased from your story." The silence between them stretched. This time, Chloe wasn't the one suffocating in it. Jason finally said, "Can we talk? Just us?" Chloe shook her head. "There is no us. There's who I was, and who I am now. And I'm not going back." He looked wounded, but not surprised. She turned and walked back to the elevator. She didn't look back. Chloe curled up on her couch, a blanket draped across her lap, a journal open beside her. She wasn't writing about Jason. She was writing about the woman she was finally meeting, herself. Noah texted her a meme. Shannon sent a video of a woman walking away from an explosion in heels. Chloe laughed. It felt good to laugh without heaviness behind it. Her phone buzzed again. A new email. Subject: "Your foundation's work is powerful." From Jaden Wells. "I read your recent interview in Atlanta Legal Weekly. Your work is necessary. If you ever want to collaborate on any of the custody or domestic violence cases, my team and I are open. J. Wells." This time, she responded, "Thank you. I may take you up on that." CB. She closed her laptop with a soft smile. Not everything needed to be loud. Some beginnings started with quiet, consistent respect. Jaden Wells preferred quiet coffee shops, the kind without Wi-Fi, no buzz, no laptop armies. That's where Chloe met him on a breezy Thursday morning after she responded to his email with a simple, "Let's meet next week. I've got a case you might want in on." He arrived early, already seated, no phone out, no show, no flash, just a navy button-up, sleeves rolled neatly, and a legal pad open with handwritten notes. Chloe took the seat across from him. "Thanks for making time," she said, adjusting her blazer. "I told you," Jaden replied. "What you're doing matters. If I can help, I will." She looked at him carefully. "You always this straightforward?" He smiled. "Only when I mean it." There was no flirtation, no edge, no tension to navigate, just ease. Chloe wasn't used to that. They spent the first hour discussing a custody case involving a mother being gaslit by her high-profile ex. Chloe laid out the problem. Jaden listened, asked sharp questions, and nodded like someone who'd seen it all and still chose to care. But near the end of the meeting, the conversation shifted. Jaden leaned forward slightly. "Is it hard for you? Starting over while the press still talks about the other thing?" Chloe didn't blink. "It was. But now? It's harder for them to ignore what I'm building." He nodded, then paused. "You know, they talk about your silence like it was weakness," he said. "But I think it's what made your exit unforgettable." Chloe stared at him, unsure what to say. No one had ever framed it like that. "You didn't throw a drink. You didn't scream," he continued. "You walked out. Head up. That kind of peace is loud." Chloe gave a soft smile. She'd gotten used to people either pitying her or praising her strength, like she was some social media slogan. But Jaden, he saw the intention in her silence. And that mattered more than anything else. Noah noticed immediately. Chloe came back from the meeting. Lighter, not giggly, not glowing, just clear. He didn't say anything, but when she handed him a case summary and said, "We'll be co-chairing this one with J. Wells," he raised an eyebrow. Wells as in, navy shirts and no ego. Chloe shot him a look. Noah smirked and kept filing. Jason sat in a meeting with his legal team and PR director. Not Kendall. She'd officially resigned via email 2 days prior. "We need to stabilize brand trust," one of the attorneys said. "Your silence about the gala has become its own headline." Jason rolled his eyes. "I'm not addressing personal drama. It's over." "It's not," another executive replied, "because every time Chloe Bernard's name is mentioned, your approval ratings dip another half point." Jason looked out the floor-to-ceiling window. Atlanta looked small from the top of his building. So did the people inside it. At the foundation, Chloe's team had grown. 3 new interns, 2 pro bono lawyers from her old law school, 1 part-time therapist. Every day brought new stories, some heartbreaking, some empowering, but none of them made her shrink. Jaden became a regular face. Not every day, not too close, but always there when it mattered. He never asked about Jason, never hinted at anything romantic. He was just present, and for Chloe, that felt revolutionary. Late one night, after working through intakes, Chloe checked her phone. A message. Unknown number, but she knew who it was. "I miss you. I was wrong. I'm still proud of you." She stared at it, then deleted it, because growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and firm. Chloe sat at the edge of her office window, overlooking the street below. People walked by, unaware they were passing a woman who had once been erased and was now writing her name on the city's future, case by case, client by client. Jaden knocked lightly on her door. "You good to meet?" he asked. She turned and smiled. "Yeah. Let's do it." They walked down the hall side by side. No tension, no performance. Just 2 people with quiet respect, building something real. Chloe had never been the kind of woman who craved a spotlight. But now, every move she made lit one on its own. Not because she sought attention, but because peace, purpose, and presence had a glow no PR campaign could compete with. The Bernard Foundation was now 6 weeks old. They'd served 18 clients, filed protective orders for 4, secured temporary custody for 2, and raised $87,000 from anonymous donors and private legal circles who respected Chloe's name far more than her ex-husband ever did. Atlanta Legal Weekly had reached out. They wanted to feature Chloe in a story titled, "Women Who Lead the Law Differently." Shannon pushed her to say yes. It's your time. People need to know how you moved with dignity. Chloe agreed on one condition. No mention of Jason, no mention of the gala, no personal drama. Say less, Shannon promised. This is your spotlight, not your shadow. The reporter, a black woman named Camilla, sat across from Chloe 2 days later, recorder on the table, notes in hand. "You seem very clear about your boundaries," Camilla said midway through the interview. Chloe smiled slightly. "I used to be clear about protecting other people's dreams. Now, I'm clear about protecting mine." Camilla leaned back. "That's going in the piece, word for word." Chloe laughed, a real laugh. Jason read the article the morning it dropped. He didn't get it from a Google alert. He saw it in the group chat with his executive board. She handled this well. Might be worth reaching out. Jason stared at her photo. Her eyes were calm, focused. There was no bitterness in the article, no passive jabs, but that made it worse, because she wasn't talking about him at all anymore. And somehow, that silence was louder than ever. It was quiet, intentional, not a gala. They called it soft opening, loud impact. Shannon handled the press. Noah prepped the materials. Jaden came too, quietly, on Chloe's invitation. He didn't hover, didn't crowd. He stood near the back, observing. When Chloe took the mic, her speech was short. "This isn't about the people we left behind. It's about the people we're standing up for now. Everyone deserves a voice, even when they've been silenced too long. That night, Chloe received 27 hugs, 4 personal letters, and 1 unexpected look from Jaden that made her pause. Not for romance, but for recognition. He saw her, the real her, and he didn't look away. The next day, Chloe received an invitation, private dinner, Jason's penthouse. Just us. She stared at the message. No text, no voice memo. Just a courier with a cream envelope and his signature. She didn't respond for 3 days. Then she sent a simple reply through her legal assistant. Ms. Bernard respectfully declines. Please direct any future communication to her counsel. No drama, no conversation, just boundaries. Back at her apartment, Chloe sat on her small balcony, blanket wrapped. Around her, scrolling through her foundation's intake reports, she wasn't looking for praise. She was looking for progress. And it was there, in the single mother who got her first custody hearing, in the woman who finally said no without apologizing. Noah stepped outside with 2 mugs. Chamomile. You need it. She took the cup. Thanks. You know you're kinda a legend now, right? Chloe smirked. Don't start. I'm serious, he said. You left a billionaire and started something more powerful than his entire boardroom. Chloe didn't respond. She didn't need to, because in her silence, there was strength. The silence didn't last, not because Chloe broke it, but because Jason finally did. 3 days after she declined his invitation, her name trended. Again. Jason Rourke credits ex-wife's guidance in public statement. It was part of a quarterly shareholder address. Jason had been under pressure to respond to the post-gala fallout, and for once he played it safe. Or so he thought. He stood behind a podium, polished and prepped, cameras on. I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone who was a part of Rourke Tech's earliest growth, he said. Chloe Bernard's insight and dedication helped shape who I am as a leader. I regret not saying that sooner. The press called it classy. Twitter called it calculated. Chloe called it what it was, late. Noah barged into her office with a printout. Did you see this? She nodded. He's trying to bait you into responding. I won't, she said, calmly. That version of me would have taken the mic. This version? She's already said enough by walking away. Later that week, Chloe received a call from her former law professor, Mrs. Arnett. A respected figure, a quiet giant. I saw the statement, Arnett said. That man is trying to launder his guilt through your name. Chloe chuckled. You always did get straight to the point. I called for 2 reasons, Arnett said. 1, to say I'm proud of you. 2, to tell you the State Bar Association wants you to speak at this year's Women in Law Symposium. Chloe blinked. Wait. What? They want your story, the way you left, the way you built, and the way you kept your dignity. Chloe swallowed. I don't do public speaking. You do now, Arnett replied. The event was 3 weeks away. Shannon handled everything. Outfit, PR coordination, press seating. You're not just speaking, she told Chloe. You're leading the room. Chloe's palms were sweating as she reviewed her outline. No soundbites, no gossip, just truth. Jaden dropped by the office the day before the event. You nervous? He asked. A little, she admitted. This isn't my usual space. You're not standing in their space, he said. You're reshaping it. She looked at him. He wasn't trying to flatter her. He meant it. Will you be there? She asked. Jaden smiled. Only if I get to sit in the back and pretend not to be impressed. The ballroom was full. Lawyers, judges, journalists, women who knew what it meant to be silenced, sidelined, or underestimated. Chloe walked on stage in a simple navy suit. She didn't read from notes. She didn't rehearse smiles. She just told the truth. I spent years being the quiet strategist behind a louder success story. I believed love required sacrifice. But the day I realized my silence was protecting someone else's image more than my own peace, I left. And when I did, I found something I never expected, myself. The room didn't clap immediately. They sat in stillness, absorbing every word, then, standing ovation. Shannon cried. Noah whistled. Jayden just nodded slowly from the back, pride evident even without words. Chloe stepped off the stage into a flood of warm hugs, firm handshakes, and media requests. She felt seen. But more than that, she felt centered. Outside the venue, Jayden stood waiting. You meant every word, he said. Chloe nodded. And for once, I wasn't afraid to say them. They walked in silence for a few steps. Then he stopped. Can I ask something? He said, voice low. Sure. Do you think you'll ever want to try again, with someone? Chloe didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, yes. But not with someone who looks good on paper. With someone who shows up. Jayden nodded. I'll keep showing up, he said. Even if it's just to hold your coat during your standing ovations. She smiled. That's a good start. 3 weeks after the symposium, Chloe was everywhere, and nowhere at the same time. She wasn't trending. She wasn't posting. She wasn't doing interviews. But her story moved quietly through law circles, women's leadership panels, and community organizations. She wasn't trying to become an icon. She was trying to stay whole. Jason's company, Rourke Tech, made headlines again. Not for innovation, for internal lawsuits. 2 women from the media department filed formal complaints citing hostile restructuring and PR-led retaliation after whistleblowing. It wasn't Kendall. It wasn't gossip. It was formal. Chloe sat at her desk, watching it unfold. She didn't feel joy. She didn't feel pity. She felt distance. Noah walked in, holding a printed article. Poetic, isn't it? He said. The same man who let the world believe his silence was noble, now forced to explain it. Chloe shook her head. That's not my business anymore. Still feels good though, right? Chloe paused, then said softly, no. Because what's crashing now, I once helped build. That evening, Chloe and Jayden sat on the rooftop of a quiet wine bar. No press, no flash. They were on their 3rd meeting that week. Still not dates. Still not titled. But something had changed. Jayden noticed first. You're pulling back, he said, not accusing, just observant. Chloe nodded. I've never had this much peace. I'm scared to lose it. You think I'm going to take it away? I think I don't know what it feels like to trust someone fully and still keep myself intact. Jayden looked at her carefully. Then I'll move at your pace. Or slower. Whatever keeps your peace safe. She looked at him, unsure what to say. So instead, she reached for his hand. Not because she needed it, but because she chose it. And for her, that made all the difference. Jason sat in his penthouse with a drink untouched beside him, scrolling through an article that referenced Chloe's speech again. He closed his laptop, turned to the framed photo of them taken 3 years ago, back when they still smiled easily. He had everything. But now, the only thing anyone asked him about was her. He thought she would come back eventually. They always did, didn't they? But Chloe wasn't they. She wasn't a footnote. She was the chapter he hadn't read carefully enough. He picked up his phone, then set it back down. This time, even he knew it was too late. Chloe didn't make a big deal out of birthdays. But this year, Shannon insisted. You turned heartbreak into an institution. That deserves at least cupcakes. So they hosted a small gathering. 10 people. Close friends. Supporters. The new staff. Some donors. Jayden. He showed up with a card and a first-edition legal text she'd once mentioned in passing during a strategy meeting. I didn't think you remembered, she said, stunned. I remember everything you say, he replied. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't loud. But it landed. And everyone noticed the way Chloe's smile reached her eyes for the first time all night. Everyone left by 10. Except Jayden. Chloe offered tea. He stayed quiet for a minute before answering. I was thinking about something you said the other night, he said. What's that? That you don't know how to trust someone without losing pieces of yourself. She nodded. It's true. He set his cup down gently. What if you don't have to hand over pieces? What if you just let someone sit beside them without touching? That sentence sat between them like a weight. Chloe whispered, "That would be new." Jaden replied, "Then let's build something new." The morning after her birthday, Chloe woke up to sunlight and stillness. No tension in her chest, no dread in her throat. Just peace. But peace has a way of stirring up fear when you're not used to it. She sat at her desk staring at a message Jaden had sent the night before. "Whatever pace feels right, I'll honor it. This isn't about winning you, it's about walking with you." She knew good men existed. She just didn't know how to be loved by one without flinching. 1 year ago, Chloe had come home excited about landing a major non-profit collaboration. She had helped broker quietly through one of Jason's board members. She'd planned to celebrate. Cooked. Dressed up. Lit candles. Jason walked in, checked his phone, and said, "We closed the Meridian deal. Can we just eat and crash?" She said nothing. She smiled, and she sat down. She learned that night how to mute herself without turning off the lights. Now she had Jaden, a man who asked how her meetings went, a man who remembered what made her shoulders tense, a man who didn't fill silence with noise, but with presence. And it scared her, because every time he looked at her like she mattered, her chest tightened. Not because of him, but because of who she used to be, the woman who only knew how to be loyal when she was invisible. Over lunch at a little Cuban spot in East Atlanta, Shannon stared at Chloe across a plate of Maduros. "You like him?" Chloe blinked. "Who?" Shannon rolled her eyes. "Girl, don't insult me." "Jaden." Chloe sighed. "I do, but—" Shannon pushed. "I'm scared he'll need more than I know how to give." Shannon leaned in. "Listen. Jason needed your silence. Jaden respects your voice. There's a difference." Chloe let that sit. Shannon wasn't just right, she was surgical. That week, Chloe and Jaden co-chaired their first major trial prep. A complex custody battle involving a former athlete and a stay-at-home mother without resources. Jaden took second chair. Didn't try to lead. Let Chloe run the strategy. He followed her flow without ego. At the end of the prep, he looked at her and said, "You built something here, not just legally. You created a space where women don't have to explain why they stayed or why they left." Chloe's throat tightened, because he wasn't just watching her do the work. He understood why she did it. Later that evening, they sat in the conference room going over final notes. The office was quiet, empty. Jaden reached for his coat, then paused. "Can I say something that might come off too honest?" Chloe tilted her head. "Try me. You're one of the strongest women I've ever met. But strength shouldn't be your only language." Chloe didn't move. "I think," he continued, "you're finally in a space where softness won't be punished." The words hit her gut like a truth she'd been avoiding. Because he wasn't just offering partnership, he was offering safety. That night, Chloe journaled. She wrote 2 columns, who I was, an silent supporter, loyal to a fault and ashamed of asking for more and afraid to be loved deeply who I am, and strategic leader. Emotionally present and boundaried, not bitter and ready to be seen. At the bottom of the page, she wrote, "I don't have to be fixed. I just have to be safe." And for the first time, that felt possible. Jason Rourke's empire wasn't crumbling overnight, but it was cracking, loudly and visibly. And this time, no amount of spin could hold it together. It started with a shareholder letter leaked to the press. Anonymous. Brutal. Precise. Leadership has become performative. Legal risks are mounting, and the executive team has no clear moral compass. The next day, tech blogs picked it up. Then the investors called. Then the HR complaints doubled. Within 72 hours, Jason was no longer in control of the narrative. He was scrambling to react to it. And the person every investor mentioned, not his PR team, not his VP of strategy, Chloe, the one who used to write the scripts and clean the messes without needing credit. Now, they all wondered, where is she? Can she come back? Will she fix this for him? Chloe's phone buzzed while she was reviewing deposition summaries. Noah glanced at the screen. His face tensed. Is that who I think it is? Chloe nodded. Jason. First time he'd called directly in months. She stared at the screen. It kept ringing. Then she let it go to voicemail. Noah let out a quiet cheer. Growth. Chloe smiled. She didn't need to hear the message to know the tone. It would be regret, wrapped in urgency, laced with manipulation. He wasn't calling because he missed her. He was calling because he needed her. And that's not the same thing. Jason was blindsided at the next board meeting. 2 senior members presented a formal request for temporary leadership review. He tried to deflect, tried to pivot. One member said plainly, "Had your wife still been present, we might not be here. But since she's not, and your name alone doesn't calm anyone anymore, this is necessary." Jason clenched his jaw. He left the meeting humiliated. Back in his office, he stared at a photo of Chloe, one he'd never removed. Her eyes still had softness in that image. Back then, he thought it was love. Now he realized it had been patience, and he had drained all of it. While Jason scrambled, Chloe was prepping her staff for a new initiative, a mobile legal clinic for women who couldn't access downtown support. She wasn't reading about him, wasn't asking Shannon for updates. She didn't need to track his fall to validate her rise. Her success wasn't revenge, it was recovery. That afternoon, Jaden dropped by with case files and 2 lattes. They reviewed their next custody case, sitting side by side in her office. At one point, Jaden looked up and said, "You okay?" Chloe nodded. "I'm just grateful." For what? For finally knowing peace doesn't have to be earned by suffering first. Later that week, Chloe received a hand-delivered envelope. Inside, an offer, a formal consulting contract from Rourke Tech. Jason wanted her to serve as temporary strategic advisor during their legal review period. The number on the offer? 6 figures. Per quarter. Noah gasped. "Girl, they think your silence is for sale." Chloe handed the offer to Shannon without a word. Shannon skimmed it. "They're desperate." "What do you think I should do?" Chloe asked calmly. Shannon paused. "I think the old you would have wanted to help fix it." "The new you? She doesn't save people who left her to drown." Chloe didn't need long to decide. She folded Jason's contract offer and slid it into her desk drawer without signing. Not because she was unsure, but because a choice that important deserved silence, not spectacle. She knew exactly how she'd respond. And when. 3 days later, Chloe was scheduled to speak on a local public affairs segment about the Bernard Foundation's mobile legal clinic. She expected a short conversation, 10 minutes max. But halfway through, the anchor shifted. "Before we wrap, I have to ask," the host said gently. "We know you've been approached to return to Rourke Tech. Will you be advising your former husband?" Chloe smiled. Not stiff, not sharp, just calm. "I'm proud of the work I did behind the scenes at Rourke Tech," she said. "But I no longer help people who only value my silence." The host blinked. The room stayed quiet for a beat. Then, applause. Chloe had answered, without dragging, without shade. And yet, it rang louder than any headline Jason had paid for in months. He watched the clip 3 times. The first time, with disbelief. The second, with anger. The third, with shame. Because she didn't attack him. She didn't expose him. She didn't leverage her pain for pity. She simply said the truth. And that truth shattered what was left of the image he'd built without her. That night, Chloe and Jaden walked the Beltline Trail in quiet rhythm. No legal talk, no headlines, just sneakers on pavement and the occasional breeze. "You handled that interview with so much restraint," Jaden said. "That kind of poise is rare." Chloe looked up. "It's not restraint, it's clarity. I know what I will and won't do for someone who once ignored my worth." He nodded. "Still, there's strength in not using a platform to swing back." Chloe laughed quietly. "Old me would have written an open letter, burned every bridge, and dropped the mic. And now I build new bridges, ones that only cross into peace." Jaden stopped walking, turned to face her. "You know I admire the woman you are now," he said. "But I would have still chosen you even before all this." Chloe blinked. "Why?" "Because even when you were silent, your value was obvious. Some men just chose not to look." The next morning, Chloe opened an envelope on her desk, not from Jason, from the State Department of Family Services. They wanted to partner with the Bernard Foundation to offer legal advocacy support in 10 counties across Georgia. Not consulting, not temporary, not advisory. Partnership, because while Jason's world shrank, Chloe's was expanding. On her own terms. She looked at Noah, who read the letter and froze. "This is big," he whispered. Chloe nodded. "It is." Then she grabbed a pen and signed. No second guessing, no permission needed. At his next board meeting, Jason was informed of a decision. Effective immediately, you'll be stepping back from day-to-day operations. He didn't fight it, didn't yell, because deep down, he knew he had built something powerful. But he'd neglected the very person who gave it foundation, and now she was building something better. Without him, they erased her behind the scenes. Now they can't stop mentioning her name. Have you ever held someone down, only to watch them forget who lifted them when the cameras showed up? Jason thought silence was power. But Chloe showed the world that peace is louder. Drop A if you've ever walked away and watched the tables turn. Then tell us, what's one thing you left behind that never deserved you to begin with? Comment below. Like this video if Chloe's growth spoke to you. And subscribe, because in the next chapter, love finally knocks on Chloe's door. But will she open it? There's a moment in healing when you stop looking back. And for Chloe, that moment came quietly. Not in court, not on a stage, not during an interview, but in her kitchen, barefoot, reading a text from Jaden. "Hey, I found a brunch spot with zero noise, strong coffee, and zero tech bros. Want to try it Sunday?" It wasn't romantic. It wasn't clever. It was simple, soft, and it made her smile. She texted back, "Yes." As long as the coffee's hot. The place was quiet, tucked between a bookstore and a florist in Grant Park. The kind of cafe that didn't care about Instagram, just warm food and slow moments. Jaden stood when Chloe arrived. Always did. They ordered, then sat by the window, people watching in between sips and soft banter. "You look rested," he said. Chloe shrugged. "First weekend in months without a client crisis. You ever let yourself fully rest?" he asked. She paused. "I'm trying." Jaden nodded slowly. "You don't have to earn peace, Chloe. You're allowed to just have it." That landed harder than she expected, because for most of her life, she had tied rest to performance, love to loyalty, worth to usefulness. Jaden was undoing that. Gently, constantly. After brunch, they walked through the neighborhood. No destination. Jaden asked, "You ever think about what you want now? Not who you were, who you are now?" Chloe took a breath. "I want ease, not laziness, just life that doesn't make me fight to be heard." Jaden glanced at her. "You ever think I'll make you fight for that?" "No," she said. "That's why it scares me." He didn't rush to fix her answer. He just said, "I'll always make space for your fear, but I won't feed it." Back at the office Monday, Chloe walked into a surprise. Brielle, their young intern, had organized a thank you board. Clients, staff, and volunteers wrote notes anonymously. One read, "You gave me a voice before I knew I had one. Thank you, Ms. Bernard." Another, "You made me feel like my story mattered. You saw me when I didn't see myself." Chloe stood in front of the board, silent. Noah appeared beside her. "You okay?" She nodded. "Yeah, just realizing something." "What's that?" "I used to think the only way to matter was to be tied to someone powerful. And now? Now I know I was the power all along." Jaden showed up unannounced with 2 things. A folder of case updates, a bag of takeout. Chloe raised an eyebrow. "You're lucky I didn't cancel my dinner plans for this." He smiled. "You mean the solo plans where you order ramen and rewatch closing arguments?" She laughed. "You've been spying." "Nope. Just listening. They ate on the couch. Quiet, casual, no pressure. Midway through, Jaden said, "I'm falling for you." No build-up, no dramatic pause. Just honesty. Chloe froze. He didn't push. "I know you're not ready. I know you're still healing. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know. So when you are ready, you don't have to wonder." Chloe blinked back, a sudden burn behind her eyes. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because you never asked to be loved loudly," he said. "But everything about you deserves to be." Chloe didn't say "I love you" that night. She didn't lean into Jaden's confession with wide eyes and open arms. She didn't run either. She just let it sit. A truth, offered freely, no strings. And that, more than anything, made her feel safe. Sunlight cut through her curtains. Chloe sat at her kitchen table, tea in hand, scrolling through reports from the foundation. She paused on a stat line. 87% of clients said they'd never had a lawyer listen to them without judgment. She wasn't just helping women. She was undoing patterns in them, and now in herself. Jaden's words echoed, "Everything about you deserves to be loved loudly." She hadn't let herself believe that yet. But she wanted to, and wanting was new. At 2:07 p.m., the call came. Unknown number. Blocked ID. Chloe answered out of instinct. Chloe speaking. A pause. Then a voice she hadn't heard in almost a year. "Hey, it's Kendall." Chloe stood up slowly. "Why are you calling me? I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but—" "No," Chloe cut in. "You lost that right the day you let the world assume something about me and said nothing." Kendall's voice cracked. "Jason's in trouble. And he's not saying it, but he's falling apart." Chloe's tone didn't change. "Not my concern. I didn't call for him," Kendall said quickly. "I called for me." Chloe blinked. "I left the company after what happened. I've been doing contract PR quietly, but something's coming. The press is about to release something about your name being left off internal founding documents. They're going to twist it. And I thought, you should know." Chloe ended the call. Didn't yell. Didn't panic. She sat back down and opened her personal drive. Years of contracts, emails, screenshots, memos, dated, verified, she had built quietly, but not without documentation. Still, her name had been left off the company's history, not by mistake, by design. She thought she was past it, but the sting returned. Not because of Jason, because she had once let that erasure happen in silence. That evening, he stopped by with dessert and zero expectations. He noticed the way her shoulders were tense. "Talk to me," he said. Chloe exhaled. "Jason's name is about to be protected by twisting mine." Jaden sat down beside her, calm. "What do you need from me?" She blinked. "You're not going to ask questions?" He shook his head. "I trust your boundaries. I'm just here if you need support, legal or otherwise." She looked away. "I thought I was past being shaken by him." "You are," Jaden said. "But that doesn't mean the scars don't ache sometimes." She nodded. And in that moment, she realized Jaden wasn't just present, he was safe. She met with Shannon the next morning. "We could get ahead of this," Shannon said. "Release your original contract. Draft a legal statement." Chloe shook her head. "No, that's not me." "Then what do you want?" "I want women to see that your value isn't measured by where your name is written, but by what you actually built." Shannon exhaled. "Then let's show them that." They drafted a blog post. Short, calm, bulletproof. It didn't name Jason, didn't bash Kendall, didn't cry for justice. It simply said, "I helped build something great, but my greatest legacy isn't the title I lost. It's the women I protect now, with the voice I reclaimed." Chloe hadn't thought about Jason in days. Not seriously, not deeply. He'd become background noise, a shadow she no longer turned toward. But on a cloudy Friday afternoon he returned, not in an article, not through a phone call, but in person. The Bernard Foundation's office was quiet. Staff had left early. Noah was at lunch. Chloe was reviewing housing advocacy briefs alone in the conference room. A soft knock. Then the door opened. Jason stood there, in a black jacket. No security, no assistant. Just him. Chloe's hand didn't shake. Her voice didn't rise. "Why are you here?" "I didn't want to call," he said. "You deserve face-to-face." She folded her arms. "For what?" He didn't speak right away. That was new. Jason sat down across from her, slowly, as if aware he was now the outsider. "I watched your interview," he said. "Then your statement. Then the bar speech. Then the last clinic post. I've seen it all." Chloe said nothing. "I owe you more than silence. More than private regret." Still, she said nothing. Jason continued. "I let people believe you were optional. I made you erase yourself to protect my image. And when it all fell apart, I reached for you. Not because I wanted to fix things, but because I didn't know how to stand without you." Chloe inhaled. Once. Then, "Why now?" Jason swallowed. "Because no matter how much money I raise or how many press releases we put out, one fact won't change. I succeeded because you held me up. And I treated that like background noise." Chloe's eyes burned, but she didn't blink. "I didn't come here to ask for you back," Jason added. "I came to say, I see you now, fully. And I'm sorry." Silence settled between them. Heavy. Not angry, just full. Chloe finally said, "Do you know how long I waited to hear those words?" Jason looked down. "I do now. And do you know what hurts more than anything?" She continued, "You didn't say them when I needed them. You said them when you needed to feel better." Jason nodded slowly. "You're right." Chloe exhaled. "I forgive you," she said. Jason blinked. "But that doesn't mean you get to orbit me again." "I'm not asking to," he replied. "I just wanted you to hear it. From me, not the press, not a headline. Me." She nodded once, then looked at the door, and Jason took the hint. Noah returned to find Chloe in her chair, eyes closed, breathing steady. "Everything good?" he asked. "Yeah," she said softly. Jason came. Noah blinked. "What?" Chloe nodded. "It's done. You sure?" "I said the one thing I never thought I'd be able to say without crying." "What's that?" "I forgive you." Noah pulled up a chair. "You want to celebrate with Thai food or a playlist of angry R&B?" Chloe laughed. "Let's start with Thai." Jaden didn't call that night. He didn't know about Jason's visit yet, but Chloe knew she'd tell him. Not because she had to, but because this version of her didn't keep things buried to keep the peace. The next evening, they met at his place. No agenda, just dinner and soft music humming from a speaker in the corner. After they finished eating, Chloe spoke first. Jason came by. Jaden didn't flinch, didn't react, just placed his fork down and turned fully toward her. Chloe continued. He apologized, really apologized. Jaden nodded once. "How did that feel?" Chloe exhaled, relieving, heavy, unnecessary, but still healing. Jaden's voice stayed calm. "And how do you feel now?" "Lighter," she said. "Not because of him, because I didn't need to yell to feel heard." He watched her for a long moment, then said, "Thank you for telling me." "That's it?" she asked. He gave a small smile. "Chloe, you're not mine to control. You're mine to trust." Her throat tightened. "That's the scariest kind of love. And the safest," he added. Later, as they sat on his couch with a blanket over both of them, Chloe asked quietly, "Do you ever worry that I still carry feelings for him?" Jaden didn't rush his answer. "I think you carry truth, and truth doesn't disappear. But no, I'm not threatened, because I see how you look when you talk about your work, when you breathe deep, when you finally relax. That peace, you didn't have it with him." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm still learning what it means to feel safe." Jaden kissed the top of her head. "And I'll keep proving I know how to protect that." At the foundation, Chloe arrived early, alone. She walked through the conference room where Jason had sat just the day before. She stood still for a long time, then picked up a dry erase marker and wrote across the wall-sized whiteboard, "Let go of what blurred your name. Build what makes it permanent." She capped the marker and smiled. At noon, Jaden sent flowers to her office. No card, just a tiny printed quote. "Love doesn't rush. It returns when you're ready." Noah read it aloud and gasped dramatically. "Girl, if you don't marry that man, I will." Chloe rolled her eyes, but the blush in her cheeks said everything. That evening, Jason made a quiet announcement to the press. He was stepping away indefinitely. No scandal, no drama, just a soft exit from the empire he once built with Chloe's hands behind the curtain. And Chloe? She watched the announcement from her phone in the back seat of a rideshare. She didn't smile, didn't frown. She simply locked her phone and looked out the window. Closure, she realized, wasn't a moment. It was a choice, and she had already made hers. Chloe stood backstage at the Civic Auditorium, the mic in her hand trembling just slightly. It wasn't nerves. It was reverence. Tonight wasn't about her. It was about the 20 women seated in the first row, graduates of the 6-month foundation incubator. For formerly incarcerated women who had just launched their first community businesses. Still, Chloe's story was why this room existed. When she stepped to the podium, the crowd quieted. She looked into the lights, then into the faces, her team, her mother, Shannon, Noah, and finally, Jaden. He nodded once. She began. "There was a time when I thought being broken quietly was strength. That silence made me noble. But I learned that truth spoken in love is louder than shame ever could be." The audience was still, moved. "I built this place, not because I healed alone, but because I didn't." She smiled toward Jaden. "I thank every crack that let the light in, every lesson dressed like pain, every ending that looked like betrayal, because they brought me back to myself." The standing ovation wasn't forced. Women in the audience wiped their eyes. Some clutched each other's hands. After the event, Chloe stayed behind. Some of the graduates came up one by one. They didn't gush. They whispered, "Thank you. For seeing me, you made me believe I could be more than my worst mistake. You gave me a reason to start." It was a full circle moment. Later, outside under the moonlit terrace, Jaden waited with a navy blue velvet box in hand. Not a ring, not yet. Inside was a gold necklace, minimal, elegant, with one charm, the letter C wrapped in a circle. She looked up at him, eyes filled. "I didn't want to mark you as mine," he said. "I wanted you to know you're whole, complete, even when I'm not next to you." She wore it that night, over her chest, close to her heartbeat. They didn't speak about titles, or timelines, or marriage. They sat in his car with the doors open, facing the lake. And Chloe asked, "What do you see when you look at us in 5 years?" Jaden smiled. "Peace. Laughter. A business you're proud of. My arms still around you every night. And one kid who can't stop asking you questions." She laughed softly. "I want that." At midnight, Chloe's phone buzzed. It was from Kendall. "I'm gone. He knows why. That woman deserves better. So do you. Take care of her." Chloe didn't reply. She didn't need to. Jason sat at the long mahogany table in his private downtown office. Empty espresso cups, wrinkled tie, sleepless eyes. He hadn't touched a spreadsheet in days. The room smelled like exhaustion and desperation. His assistant walked in quietly. "She's here." He stood, then sat back down, then stood again. No hesitation, no weakness. She was in a tailored navy jumpsuit, hair swept up, heels silent. Jason stood, trying to speak first. She held up a hand. No small talk. He paused. She sat across from him, calm and sure. "Because you called," she answered plainly. "And because closure is a gift I give myself." Jason swallowed. "I've watched every interview, seen the gala photos, watched the city crown you, and I still don't understand how I lost you." Chloe stared at him. You didn't lose me. You threw me away. Silence. You handed my dignity to a woman who was obsessed with power. And you smiled while I drowned. Jason leaned forward, his voice quiet. She said she'd leave the company. I didn't ask her to. She just disappeared. I never meant to break you. I thought you'd always come back. I did come back, Chloe replied. But not to you. She opened her purse and took out a small velvet pouch. Inside was her wedding ring. She slid it across the table. Jason didn't reach for it. He stared. That night at the conference, Chloe said slowly, when you walked in with her on your arm, do you know what broke me? Jason looked up. You didn't even flinch. You weren't ashamed. You acted like I never existed. Tears welled in his eyes. I was wrong, Chloe. She stood. Yes, you were, and you'll live with that. Not as punishment, but as truth. She paused at the door. I already did. That's how I'm free. She didn't look back. She met Shannon and Noah at the community center. Noah had cupcakes. Shannon had a printout of their next PR campaign, Rebuilt. Stories from women who refused to stay broken. And Chloe? She had peace in her chest. She smiled. She walked into Jaden's apartment. It smelled like roasted garlic and warmth. The lights were dim, soft jazz played. He opened the door before she even knocked. You okay? He asked. She nodded. I ended something today. Not just a marriage. A lie I kept telling myself. He pulled her in. And for the first time in years, she exhaled fully in someone's arms. Chloe wasn't chasing anything anymore. Not approval. Not closure. Not even justice. She had reclaimed something much harder to win back. Herself. Shannon, always extra, organized a garden brunch. Sunshine. Hydrangeas. Peach Bellinis. R&B playing low. No speeches. No pity. Just celebration. 34 looks good on you, Shannon said, raising her glass. Noah leaned in. You're trending again. Chloe laughed. Let me guess. Someone discovered I wore flats instead of heels today. She cared about Ava's smile when they baked together. She cared about the women whose grants she helped fund last month. She cared about peace. Slow, quiet, earned. Midway through brunch, her phone vibrated. A message from Jaden. Dinner at 8. Wear the green dress. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. But he was consistent. He made space, not noise. At first, Chloe kept her guard high. But time, patience, and his calm spirit softened her. He never tried to replace Jason's memory. He simply gave her new ones. She stepped into the restaurant. Low lighting. White linen. A single candle flickered on their table. Jaden stood and smiled. You wore it. Chloe smiled back. And you're still taller than me in heels. About travel plans. Her next keynote. His cousin's wedding in Savannah. She caught herself smiling too often. It didn't scare her this time. It grounded her. He reached into his jacket. She froze. Her breath caught. Not a ring. A small, bound notebook. She opened it. Inside were pages filled with her quotes. From interviews, podcasts, essays. All the times she spoke power into the world, he had written them down. You don't need a diamond, he said softly. You already shine. She couldn't speak. He reached across the table. When you're ready, he said. Not for marriage. Not for a label. But for love that doesn't hurt. She blinked, then nodded. She was ready. The next morning, Chloe opened her windows wide. The Atlanta breeze carried the scent of rain-soaked jasmine and early morning coffee from the cafe across the street. It was Sunday, but for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she needed to recover from anything. Messy curls, sleepy eyes, a toy stethoscope around her neck. Are you a doctor today? Chloe asked. Ava nodded, crawling onto the stool. Are you happy now, Mama? The question made Chloe pause. She leaned over, kissed her forehead and whispered, Yes, I am. She stood before the new mural painted on the side of her non-profit's building. A woman of color, eyes forward, chin lifted, walking barefoot through flames, but untouched by them. Beneath it read, "She walked through fire, then built a home in the ash." People stopped to take photos. Some cried, some smiled. Some were silent. Chloe stood still. She had lived those flames. Now, she built the home. Jason. He waited in the courtyard, thinner, older. He handed her a plain envelope. No fanfare. No attempt at explanation. Inside were documents, shares from one of his media companies, signed over to Ava. A single note. "I failed at being a husband. Don't let me fail at being a father too." She didn't say anything, just nodded. Forgiveness wasn't owed, but legacy mattered. Soft jazz in the background. Jaden arrived with takeout, no expectations. He kissed her cheek like it was routine. Because it was. Because he'd waited long enough to earn her peace, not just her presence. Chloe leaned on his chest, fingers laced with his. "This. Right here," she said. "What?" he asked. "This is the soft life, and I'm never leaving it behind again." Jaden kissed the back of her hand. "I'll protect it with you." Have you ever been loyal to someone who didn't know what to do with your love? Have you ever rebuilt yourself from betrayal, brick by brick, until your peace spoke louder than your pain? Then you know Chloe's story isn't just fiction. It's a reflection. Sometimes the greatest plot twist isn't revenge, it's peace. And when you finally choose it, there's no going back. If this story moved you, do 3 things, and like the video to show your support, and comment below with your favorite moment or line. Subscribe to join our community, where every story carries heart, healing, and hope. See you in the next one. Stay strong, stay soft, and never forget, your peace is not up for negotiation.